Alrighty, so another midweek action is upon us as we are actually now heading to a stretch of the MLS season where it's kind of started to kind of becoming a throwback of the 2020 MLS COVID season. Where remember doing the 2020 COVID season in MLS? There seems to be like a game every single day, and now heading into the 4th of July weekend and the 4th of July itself next Monday. We're going to have games 5 of the 7 days. That's going to happen. So, yeah, there's going to be non-stop MLS action that is going to be happening in these next couple of days. And it starts on Wednesday where we're going to have 7 games that's going to be happening. Well, technically 8 games if you don't include the U.S. Open Cup between Nashville SC and Orlando City. And then the 2 games that is going to be happening on Thursday. And also, I have no idea how am I going to do the review in terms of the 7 games that's going to happen on Wednesday, because I am actually going to go to LA and I am actually doing the definition of insanity and go to watch the Galaxy take on Minnesota, which, if you don't know why I say that's the definition of insanity, well, I'll kind of mention it again when we get to talk about this game a little bit later in this preview. But yeah, it's going to be very tough for me to, of course, do these reviews, and I'll probably just do it at a hotel. Once again, I mean, I've done reviews before in a hotel, and that, it's not very good quality, but it is what it is when I'm, of course, traveling. But also the fact that, there's going to be a lot of games that's going to be happening, and that also some of these videos I've been thinking about uploading and recording that's not related to like previews and reviews and even news of the week episode. Those are going to have to take a back seat with just so many games that's going to be happening. I'm trying to get it in and also watch these games and also record these video as much as possible, and that's even battling still working full-time at my job. But let us actually begin with the first game, which is FC Cincinnati versus NYCFC, which will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. By the way, in terms of the Wednesday action, when we have 7 games, half of the action is going to be Eastern Conference game, and half of them is going to be Western Conference game. Well, actually, more than half of them is going to be Western Conference game, but most of these Western Conference game is going to be taking place in the West Coast. So there's going to be a lot of late start in terms of some of these midweek games, which, I guess, the only good news is, well, actually, it's not really good news, because when you look at some of the opponent that these West Coast team is going to face, yeah, the road team, they're going to be in for a rough one with them. Have to stay up very late at night on a Wednesday to watch their team play, but that won't be the case, at least for teams playing the Eastern Conference. As mentioned, the first game between Cincinnati and NYCFC starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. Cincinnati have a 7-2-7 record, while NYCFC have an 8-3-4 record. All-time meeting, NYCFC is still perfect against FC Cincinnati, 6-0-0. And in terms of the top goals scored so far for Cincinnati, Brendan Vasquez with 8 goals, followed by Lucho Acosta with 5 goals. Then you got Alvaro Barrio with 2 goals, Junior Moreno with 2 goals, and then Ronald Matarrita, followed by a long list of Cincinnati players with 1 goal. For NYCFC, Tati Castellanos still leads the team with 8 goals, followed by Thiago Andrade with 4 goals, Talis Magno with 3 goals, Alexander Callens with 3 goals, and Aber with 2 goals. And I'm actually very interested to see how this game plays out, especially for Cincinnati. I know, they're still searching for their first ever win against NYCFC, and also their first ever point against NYCFC, with NYCFC just pretty much dominate this series in the first 6 game, getting wins in their first 6-1. But I feel like this could potentially be the one where maybe Cincinnati will break that streak, because NYCFC isn't really playing at their best so far, and that Cincinnati is a team that definitely had a lot of confidence after getting the win in the last game, and not to mention they're playing at home in this one. They definitely would feel that this could be an opportunity for them to finally make history and finally, for the first time, able to get a win or even get a draw against the defending MLS Cup champion. But now moving on, in the next match, we got Toronto versus the Columbus Crew. Toronto 5-3-8, while Columbus have a 4-6-5 record, as this game will also start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, the Crew does have a slight advantage, 16-13-12 over TFC, but the top goal scorer for TFC, you got Jesus Jimenez still the top goal scorer with 7 goals, followed by Alejandro Pozuelo with 4 goals. Then you got Jonathan Osorio, who scored in the last game against Atlanta with 4 goals now to his name. And then you got DeAndre Kerr with 2 goals, and then Michael Bradley, followed by a long list of TFC players with 1 goal. For Columbus, we talked about this season of them struggling in terms of scoring goals, and that, it kind of showed in terms of the top goal scorer. I mean, their top goal scorer right now is Lucas Zarian, but he hasn't really had the best of the season. Only 4 goals so far, followed by Derek Etienne Jr. with 3 goals. Then you got Eric Hurtado with 3 goals, Miguel Berry with 2 goals, and Darlington Nagbe with 2 goals for Columbus. By the way, I'm not sure if this might be the game where Columbus could debut their $10 million signing in Cucho Hernandez. Actually, I think that they probably won't get him into the team until July, because MLS. I think their secondary transfer window doesn't open until July. So a lot of these big signings that we have heard over the MLS world, and there's been some huge signing that has happened around the MLS rumor mill, and doing this early part as we get ready into the secondary transfer window. But all of these players are not eligible in terms of joining their team until that secondary transfer window does open. But once that is open, Cucho Hernandez, I'm assuming, is going to join this crew team. But for Columbus, I would say that they have play a little bit better on the road. I mean, this is always been a team that's kind of have problems on the road, but at least in the last 2 games they're able to get 4 points. Though they're playing against a TFC side that they're trying to create a little bit of a resurgency, and that at least they're trying to get all 3 points against a team that as I said, even though with the crew being okay on the road, at least in these last couple of games, they still suck on the road. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, and speaking of team that suck on the road, is the Chicago Fire. But the good news is they're playing at home in this game. The bad news is they're about to play against the top team in the Eastern Conference, that is the Philadelphia Union, who have a 7-8-1 record, while the Fire has a 3-5-8 record. And this is one of those classic games where it's the bottom of the table in its conference against the top teams. And we've seen this before, where just because this is a matchup between the team at the bottom versus the team at the top, or vice versa itself, it doesn't mean the team at the top will always come out with victory. In fact, more times or not, we have seen the team at the bottom gets the best over the team at the top, and it just kind of just shows you why MLS is a league of parity where anything can happen. And coming into this game, there could be a case where the Fire could get an upset against the Union, especially. Yes, the Union had a very emotional win against NYCFC, but how much of a letdown will they have in this game against the Fire, especially of how that Sunday game, it must have really took the Union and their energy a lot. And when you have just such an emotional game and just such a mental toll kind of game that the Union gone through, how much is that going to drain on them? The fact that they have to play on a short week and have to travel on the road to face against the Chicago Fire. Now, this game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. The Union does have a 14-7-9 overall record against the Fire, and the top goal scorer for the Fire, it's former Union man Kasper Shibilko, leads the list with 3 goals, followed by Jordan Shaqiri. But like what I said about Columbus, the Fire is one of those teams that struggle to score goals, and it's evidence in terms of the top goal scorer on their team, not even getting 3 goals, being the top goal scorer. And then you got a bunch of players with 1 goal so far for this team, guys like Jonathan Bornstein, Duran, and Herbert's, all with 1 goal for the Fire so far. Now for the Philadelphia Union, their top goal scorer is Daniel Gastag with 7 goals, but he has definitely slowed down in terms of the goal scored. I mean, he started hot out of the gate, but he has kind of slowed down in terms of it. Then you got Julian Carranza with 4 goals, Alejandro Bedoya with three goals, and then Corey Burke with 3 goals. He scored in the last game in that dramatic winner against NYCFC, and then Michael Root also scored in that last game against NYCFC, up to 3 goals now in the tally. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how the Union will do in this game after just such an emotional win that they had against NYCFC. And time again, we've seen when teams get that emotional win against their rival, the very next game, and especially on a very short week to go on the road, they can have a huge letdown, and we'll see whether they're going to have a letdown against a fire team that is desperate in terms of trying to get wins. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Seattle Sounders versus Montreal, and this is a matchup we haven't seen in a long time. In fact, anytime when you see a matchup between a Western Conference team and the Eastern Conference team, I've said before, it's almost like 2 years since last of them play against each other, but, this is kind of one of those matchups where, it feels like it's been a while since these two teams, of course, face off against each other. But coming into this game, the Sounders have a 7-2-6 record, and don't look now, the Sounders are above the red line, and they still have games in hand while they're above the red line right now. And I know, again, I don't think anybody should be shocked, the fact that the Seattle Sounders is going with their usual resurgence after winning CCL. I think the only surprising factor is that it's actually been pretty quick, the fact that they have made progress. Like, usually this Sounders team, they really play at their best in the second half of the season, but they're kind of treating like the last part of the first half of the season like the second half of the season, because the resurgence that they're going through right now, I mean, it won't be long before this Sounders team can definitely find themselves near the top 3 of the standing. Whereas they play against a Montreal team that did get a win in the last game, albeit it was against a relatively short-handed Charlotte team, and they kind of had trouble in terms of getting all 3 points, and kind of also was a very unconvincing win with an 8-2-6 record. This game is going to start at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. In terms of the all-time meeting, believe it or not, Montreal has a great record against the Sounders, 5-2-1 over the Sounders in terms of the all-time meeting. And in terms of the top goal scored for the Sounders, you got Raul Ruidiaz with 5 goals. I'm not quite sure whether if he is going to be returning to the starting 11 in this game. But one player that is in the starting 11 is Jordan Morris with 4 goals. Started to kind of heat up after just a slow start to the season. Then you got Nico Ladero with 3 goals, Christian Rodon with 3 goals, and Will Brun rounds off the top 5 with 2 goals. For Montreal, you got Georgi Mihailovic with 7 goals, and I believe he's not going to be playing in this one. And I mentioned how much they desperately miss the service and the creativity of Georgi Mihailovic in these last couple of games. Then you got Romel Kyoto with 6 goals, Kai Kamara with 3 goals, Joaquin Torres with 3 goals, and Joel Waterman with 2 goals. So, yeah, this should be an interesting game, but, this is one that I think the Sounders are going to be heavily favored, because, they have been in a very good form, and they're starting to look like the Seattle Sounders that we know of. And when the Seattle Sounders started to look like this, and not to mention that they're not 100% healthy, yeah, this could be a very dangerous team, and this is definitely bad news for the rest of the league, and especially the Western Conference. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is the game that I mentioned before. It's kind of a definition of insanity that I'm going to go to this one between the Galaxy versus Minnesota, because the Loons are pretty much rock bottom right now. In fact, I wouldn't even say they're rock bottom. They're basically drilling beyond rock bottom right now. This is probably the lowest point of this team in MLS. Probably, maybe even lower than what it was in the first 2 seasons. Because, yes, I know the first 2 seasons for the Loons were not good, but, of course, that was part of the infamous 3-year plan that Adrian Heath tends to boast on. But the fact that this team has just underachieved so much, and that, yeah, I mean, these last 2 games have been not only just very typical Minnesota, the kind of level of heartbreak, but just these last two games just kind of sums up Adrian Heath tenure for the Loons, at least in this season, and also last season alone, where it feels like the players are not playing for him anymore. And that, again, this is why it's kind of insane, the fact that he did receive that 2-year contract extension. And I know he received that in the beginning of the season, but you wonder, is the front office maybe started to regret on that? And especially, just because a coach that received a 2-year contract extension doesn't mean that he's immune to be there for 2 years. And my hope is that, again, I'm almost kind of using the same approach I've seen with the Quakes, where, I don't mind if they keep losing game, as long as if the front office eventually realize that, yeah, maybe the head coach is not the right one to do. And in this case for Minnesota, if this team keep losing, you got to say that the front office is going to have to pull the trigger, because the pressure right now and the drum of the Heath out crowd is banging louder and louder, and it's at a point where it's pretty much infected the fan base, where pretty much majority of the fan base demand Adrian Heath to be fired from this team. And yeah, we'll see whether that, of course, would happen, because again, these last couple of games, especially on the road, has just been some of the most frustrating game I've ever seen from this team, right up to the level where it's almost similar to the one that when they lost 3-2 against the Sounders in the Western Conference Final. Now, that being said, as I said, it is the definition of insanity of going to this game. And as I said, coming into this game, I'm still going to be rooting for the Loons. But I will have the lowest expectation for this team. Like, I would not be disappointing or even heartbreak if this team find a way to lose against the Galaxy, which is a team that they don't have a good record against them. All-time meeting is 6-4 and 1 in favor of the Galaxy. And by the way, the Galaxy have a 7-3-5 record, as this game will start at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. And the Galaxy themselves, they're starting to find their groove a little bit, albeit there is still, they did suffer that catastrophic loss in the last game against the Sacramento Republic in the U.S. Open Cup, and I think it's probably for the best that they didn't play in the Cali Classico, or maybe it's probably the worst, because I would definitely want to see the Quakes play against a lowly confident Galaxy team and get another win in the Cali Classico at Stanford. But we'll see how they respond in this game. And by the way, the top goal scored for both teams, for Minnesota, Robin Lod leads the team with 6 goals, and Luis Amarilla, as bad as he is, he's the second top goal scorer of this team. I mean, when you know that a player that everybody been slated as one of the worst player, and if it feels like the classic number 9 curse for this Loons team has now infected into Luis Amarilla, you know that this team has problem in terms of scoring. Scored 3 goals so far, and even scored in the last game against Inter Miami. Then you got Reynoso with 3 goals, Arriaga with 1 goal, and Denlati with 1 goal, with a bunch of players currently sitting on just 1 goal. For the Galaxy, Chicharito currently have 6 goals so far, but like I said, he's been kind of cold for a bit before. He did kind of find a way to score, I think, in one of the last couple of games, but for the most part, I feel like he's still kind of not in the best form like what we saw in the beginning of the season, and especially last season. Then you got Joveljic, who's really been the guy that's been picking up the slack for the Galaxy on the attack with 4 goals, followed by Efrain Alvarez with 2 goals, Douglas Costa with 2 goals. I almost said Diego Costa for a second. Diego Costa does not play for the Galaxy. But then you got Koulibaly with 1 goal for the Galaxy. So, yeah, when you have 2 teams that struggle to score goals, something tells me this could be a 0-0 draw. But if there's one thing I know, it's probably not going to be a 0-0 draw. I mean, as bad as Minnesota has been this season in terms of scoring, they have not had a 0-0 draw this season, which maybe that is also indictment of how it's not just the attack that is bad for this team. The defense also has been bad this season, and the only reason why, when you look at the amount of goals that the Loons have conceded, and it's not really at an astronomical kind of number, is because of Dane Sinclair, of how many times he had single-handedly bailed out this team because of the fact that there's time where this defense just been non-existent against opposition. But now moving on, in the next match, we got LAFC versus FC Dallas, which this will also start at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Most likely when I go to LA on Wednesday, I'm definitely going to see a lot of LAFC fans, and yeah, it's going to be also interesting to see both LAFC fans and the Galaxy that is going to be riding the Metro Rail down to the stadium. Well, actually, I don't think that's probably going to be the case, because we know that the Metro Rail does. If you ever live in LA, we know the Metro Rail doesn't actually go down to Dignity Health Sports Park and doesn't go down to Cars Stadium, and they're not really heading in the same direction. So in some way, as much as we know both of these fan base kind of had some bad blood, at least maybe they kind of avoid that. But it also means that yeah, I'm probably gonna see a lot of LAFC jersey on my way to go to the game itself, as they're gonna also be playing at the same time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, but their game actually kicked off about 8 minutes later, 7:45 p.m. local time, because it is going to be on national television on FS1, one of the rare times that a midweek game is on national television. All-time meeting between both of these teams. LAFC does have a 3-2-1 record. In terms of top goal scored, Carlos Vela still the top goal scorer of this team with 6 goals, followed by Chicho Arango with 5 goals. Then you got Ryan Hollinshead with 4 goals, Jose Cifuentes with 3 goals, and Mahala Opoku with 3 goals for LAFC. But, it's not a big surprise that LAFC doesn't really have that de factor. I mean, yes, it's not surprised that Vela has scored the most goal for this team, but he hasn't really been a player that's been the main goal scorer of this team. This team has had a collective effort from everybody, and that's kind of what makes LAFC dangerous, and what make a team when you have a collective amount of people scoring goals. Yeah, that makes it really hard for opposition to figure it out, and why we always seen before where when teams don't have that guy that is a top goal scorer, but everybody can contribute on the goal scoring part, those teams are always the hardest team to try to figure out. And for Dallas, they're going to have to try to do so because coming into this game, they're definitely not been in the best of the form. Although in terms of the top goal scored for Jesus Ferreira, he leads that list with 9 goals, followed by Paul Arriola with 8 goals. But both of those players kind of been cooled off a little bit. Then you got Franco Jara with 2 goals, Brendan Cervania with 2 goals, and Alan Velasco, who started promising for FC Dallas but have really fallen off the map in these last couple of games. He only have 2 goals to show for so far in his first season for Dallas. But yeah, this is a game that I think LAFC once again is going to be heavily in favor. But Dallas, at least one thing we've seen this season is that they can finally get something going on the road and get some points on the road, which is something that we usually never seen from this FC Dallas team. This is also one of the worst teams in terms of playing on the road, but we'll see if that they definitely need some of that magic again in this one, because again, this is heavily favored for LAFC, and I think many people would say that LAFC should get the win in this one. But that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the last 3 games that's going to be happening in terms of the midweek action of match week number 17. So the last 3 games, and really the last game in terms of the Wednesday action, comes in Portland between the Portland Timbers versus the Houston Dynamo, as this game also starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. The Timbers have a 4-7-6 record, while the Dynamo has a 6-3-7 record, but the Timbers are trying to start to prove that after they got that big victory against the Rapids, where they really kind of run away with it in the second half of that game, they're trying to prove that this is the beginning of them to trying to kick off a resurgence and trying to get themselves back into playoff contention. Because, one thing we know about the Timbers in these next couple of games, they have a lot of them at home. And this is, of course, another one of it against a team that doesn't do well on the road in the Houston Dynamo. And in fact, in terms of the all-time meeting, the Timbers does lead that list 9-8-6 over the Houston Dynamo. And the top goal scored so far for the Timbers, it's not Bill Luma anymore. It's actually Yaroslav Nishkoda with 5 goals. And I don't think I mentioned this in the review yesterday, but this has got to be great news for the Portland Timbers that Nishkoda is finally scoring, because he's been having a very rough start to the season, and many wonder what in the world happened to him. This was a guy that before he suffered that ACL injury, one of the most lethal finisher for this Timbers team, and he just been completely fall off the map. But as the old saying go, when you're a number 9 and you've been able to break out a drought, the goals would come. And it feels like after Nishkoda kind of broke that drought a couple of weeks ago, you can start to see that he's feel more confident, and that last game proves it with him bagging a brace and now tied with Bill Tuiluma with 5 goals for the top goal scored for the Timbers. Then you got Jimmy Chara with 4 goals, Sebastian Blanco with 3 goals, and Darren Asprilla with 2 goals. For the Dynamo, you got Seba Ferreira with 6 goals, followed by Darwin Quintero with 6 goals. Then you got Tyler Pasher, Fafa Pico, and Orferson also with 2 goals for the Houston Dynamo. But like I said, for the Timbers, another massive opportunity to get all 3 points against the Dynamo team that I feel like this season, as much as I've said the Dynamo always suck on the road, at least they have 2 road wins this season, and that at times they have played relatively well on the road, even in some of those games where they don't wins. So, it's not always a guarantee that the Timbers, of course, can get free points, but you just got to feel like after that big victory against the Rapids and them trying to dig themselves out of this hole that they find themselves in after a slow start to the season, they have to win this game if they want to continue that momentum. But now moving on into the next match, and now look at the two Thursday game that's going to happen. We start off with Charlotte FC taking on Austin FC, and is it safe to say this is kind of like an expansion derby? I mean, I know both of these teams didn't come into the league, but these were the last two teams that, of course, come into MLS with Charlotte. This, of course, is the expansion year, and Austin came into the league in 2021. But coming into this game, Charlotte have a 6-2-9 record, while Austin have an 8-4-4 record. This game will start at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. And again, anytime when Charlotte play against a Western Conference team, you know that this is, of course, the first ever meeting between both of these teams. And in terms of top goal scorers so far for Charlotte, I mean, one of the issues for Charlotte this season has been the goal scoring, so it's not surprised that, Karol Świderski is still the top goal scorer of this team with only 4 goals, but he's been going through a dry spell and haven't really scored a goal ever since he had incredible run of form, I believe back in May. But then you got Ben Bender with three goals, and then Andre Shiinshiki, who has really made a big impact to the Charlotte team ever since coming from the Rapids with 3 goals. Then you got Jordi Alcivar with 1 goal, and Guzman Corojo, who scored in the last game against Montreal with 1 goal, also in the list of Charlotte players currently have only 1 goal for their team. Now for Austin FC, Sebastian Giroussi still on the top goal scorer list. In fact, I believe he's now tie in terms of the Golden Boot race after he scored in the last game with 9 goals. I mean, so far we still have not had a double-digit goal scored, and we're almost already halfway through the season. But then you got Maxi Urruti with 5 goals, Diego Fagundes with 3 goals, Alex Rain with 2 goals, and Ethan Finley with 2 goals to round up the top 5 goals scored. So yeah, we'll see how this game, of course, would turn out. I mean, for Austin, they will be kind of disappointed that they weren't able to get all 3 points against FC Dallas in the last game, and especially this is a team that really needs to secure those home points. They will see that game against Dallas, even though they came back from 2-0 deficit, was a missed opportunity to get something, and now they're gonna have to trying to make up for it. And it's not going to be easy because they're playing against a Charlotte FC team that have only lost twice this season at home. Like, there's just something about Charlotte and playing at Bank of America Stadium have really established that as a fortress. And coming into this game, I'm not quite sure whether or not if they're going to be shorthanded again. If they are going to be shorthanded, then I think this might be one of the few times that they might be underdog coming into a home match. But they're looking to try to ride that good home form, and especially that crowd to get all 3 points. But for Austin, I think you could say that maybe this is one of the easiest games that they will play during this tough stretch, especially if Charlotte is not going to put out a good starting 11 and those players on health and safety protocol are still on that list. Then yeah, there's a good opportunity that Los Verdes to get their 9th win of the season. But finally, we move on into the last game in terms of midweek action, and probably one of the more exciting one. Well, I know every time when the Red Bulls play against Atlanta United, it always brings me back to when these two teams, remember when they were like the top of the Eastern Conference back in 2018, and that there seems to be kind of like that rivalry standpoint. And in some way, I think there maybe is still a little bit of that, even though I know you have one team, the Red Bulls, started to kind of struggle in the last couple of games, especially on the road after they had that weird kind of start of the season where they can only win on the road, but they can't win at home. And then you got Atlanta United, who's just kind of been inconsistent in this season. I mean, couldn't quite fall up after a big victory the prior game, and then losing to Toronto FC, and their record is now at 5-4-6. This game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 8:08 p.m. local time. Now the Red Bulls does have the all-time meeting lead with 6-4-2, and for a long time the Red Bulls have been a kryptonite for Atlanta United, even during the good years. But Atlanta United fans will say that yeah, they still won that Eastern Conference two-legged affair back in 2018. That is kind of the reason why Atlanta United was able to get to their first ever MLS Cup just 2 years into their existence in MLS. Now the top goal scorer, you got Lewis Morgan with 7 goals for the Red Bulls, followed by Lucanias with 5 goals. Then you got Patrick Klimala with 4 goals, Tom Barlow with 2 goals, and Omer Fernandez with 2 goals. For Atlanta United, you got Ronaldo Cisneros with 4 goals, followed by Luis Araujo also with 4 goals. Then you got Thiago Almada with 3 goals, Dom Dwyer with 3 goals, and Joseph Martinez with 3 goals for Atlanta United. So, yeah, this should be a very interesting game, and that, again, let's just hope that you know, anytime when both of these teams play against each other, there could be some feisty action, and hopefully that rivalry sake hasn't lost, because again, this was considered to be the hottest rivalry just a couple of years ago, and that, you know, ever since, both of these teams haven't really done that well in the Eastern Conference, to kind of fall off the map a little bit. You know, maybe a lot of people won't say that this is as a marquee of a matchup as we've seen a couple of years ago. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of all 9 of these games that's going to be happening in the middle of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all 9 of these games, and let me know in the comments below your prediction for these 9 games that's going to be happening in the middle of the week. Again, I'm going to try my best in terms of doing the review of these games. I'll probably do the review of the Wednesday game at the hotel, and then the last 2 games, I'll do the review once I get back from LA, because I'm going to be there for a day, and then I'll return on Thursday. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.